Hey guys, this is Savage Road Recovery here. So this right here is Larry Elder. He is a conservative pundit. He's got a show, and he's been a conservative for his whole life, I think. I'm not exactly sure. I know he's been in the public eye for 30, 40 years. Um, he's got some stuff to say that I felt was important, and I would just like to react to his video, and you guys can tell me what you think. If you guys aren't subscribed, subscribe, hit the bell. You don't always get notifications, so just keep up on my page. Also, like, comment, tell me what you think. Heck, if you don't like, give me a thumbs down. All right, let's get into this video.
Protests over the death of George Floyd. Look, everybody, everybody has agreed that the man should not have died under those circumstances. It's not like there's some sort of controversy over it. I'm a child of the 50s and the 60s. And during the 50s and 60s,
Let's stop it right there. He's right. Everyone agreed. Everyone totally agreed that that man should have not ended the way that his life ended, and it was uncalled for.
there were protests over civil rights deprivations of blacks. There were protests over the Vietnam War. Much of the country felt it was an unwise war, an immoral war. A lot of the country felt differently. My point is these were legitimate bases for street protests. What's the basis right now? The narrative that the police are more.
With that being said, that's completely true. The civil rights movement was definitely needed. The Jim Crow laws, the separate but equal, all that stuff wasn't right. It wasn't. But that was predominantly in the South. It was the South. It was the Democrats or the Dixiecrats that made those laws. They're also the people that made the KKK. So at the end of the day, 100% agreed. Had I been alive during that time, even if I lived in the North, I would have went down and supported, because that was unjust. It was.
Going down black people? It's a false narrative. It's not true. Hey, if it were true, a lot of us would be out in the streets protesting. It is not true. And isn't that good news? According to the Washington Post, there were 9 unarmed black men who were shot and killed by the police in 2019. Guess how many white men who were unarmed and were killed by the police, shot and killed by the police? 19. When did the
So if you heard what he just said, he said that the Washington Post stated that there were 9 unarmed black men that were killed in 2019. And if you look at that same article, 19 white people that were unarmed were killed.
street protests occur? And according to the CDC, over the last half century or so, the rate of police shootings against blacks have declined 75%. Not a typo, 75%. While the rate of police shooting of whites has flatlined. So one can even argue that whites are more at jeopardy of the police than blacks. Why do I say that?
So with that being said, the shootings of blacks have gone down 75%. And the shootings of whites has stayed the exact same.
A young black man is around 8 times more likely to be a victim of a homicide than a young white man. In fact, the number one cause of preventable death for young white men is homicides. The number one cause of death, preventable or otherwise, for young black men, homicide. And almost always killed by another young black man. So what are we talking about here? Last year, there were roughly 7,000 black homicide victims. Almost all of them were killed by other blacks. And when it comes to interracial homicide, which is rare, last year, in recent years, it averaged about 750 interracial black-white instances of homicide. 500 whites were killed by blacks, 250 blacks killed by whites. So blacks at 13% of the population are killing twice as many whites at 61% of the population. And LeBron James put out a tweet after the death of Armand Arbery in Brunswick, Georgia, and said that we're literally being tracked and terrorized and followed every time we leave our homes. Really? And if so, by whom?
In all fairness, it has come out with that case recently that the guy that did end up shooting Arbery was known to make racist comments and also to make racist posts on social media. So as far as I can tell, this is true. It was someone testified to this, so I do think that this man was a racist. This was an incident of it being a racist. So I don't necessarily want to say that all people, all black folks are being hunted down, but in this case, he was. He definitely was hunted down.
Look at things like Chicago. Chicago's around a third black, a third white, a third Hispanic. However, 70% of the homicides are black on black. And about 75% of those cases are unsolved. Honestly. And when it comes to non-homicide, interracial, violent black-white acts, in any given year, recently, there are around 600,000. In 85 to 90% of the cases, it involves a black perpetrator and a white victim. Only 15% or so the other way around. So what are we talking about here? The only question we ought to be asking ourselves is...
So what he was saying was that 85 to 90% of interracial crimes, so like not murder, but I'm assuming like theft, robbery, assault, stuff like that, is a white victim and a black perpetrator.
Why is the crime rate so high in the black community that causes the police to cause there to be so many interactions with black people? And the answer, in my opinion, is the absence of fathers. Forget about Larry Elder. Barack Obama said a kid raised without a father is 5 times more likely to be poor, 9 times more likely to drop out of school, and 20 times more likely to end up in jail. It is the #1 social problem in this country in general and in the black community in particular. And the question is why? In 1965, 25% of black kids were born outside of wedlock. Now that number is 70%. Now you could argue that 25% had something to do with race and slavery and Jim Crow. But how do you explain the out-of-wedlock birth rate in the black community going from 25% in 1965 to almost 70% now? You cannot pin that on slavery and on Jim Crow. It is the welfare state. And what we've done with the welfare state is we've incentivized women to marry the government, and we've incentivized men to abandon their financial and moral responsibility. And we're not having had a discussion about that.
And I agree with this, white or black. Women, when they have children, are incentivized to marry the government. When I got my son's mom pregnant, I was still somewhat blue-pilled and thought that I was supposed to do the right thing, and I asked her to marry me because I didn't want my son to be born out of wedlock. And she told me that while she was pregnant, now mind you, she was pregnant with my child, she told me that marriage was kind of a big deal. That was a big step. While she was carrying my child, she turned me down.
Dean Baquet is the executive editor of the New York Times. He happened to be black. And he hired a conservative writer as a columnist named Bret Stephens. And Bret Stephens' first column was a column in which he wrote about his skepticism about climate change. And Dean Baquet said a bunch of people contacted the New York Times and canceled their subscriptions. And Baquet admitted that as a general rule, the left does not want to hear thoughtful disagreement. He said that publicly. Well, as a general rule, the black left doesn't believe there's such thing as thoughtful disagreement. We need to have thoughtful disagreement within the black community and cut out this nonsense that's causing people to get hurt and destroying property values. And many of these cities' property values will never, ever recover. And so a small minority of looters that both Obama once referred to as thugs and Joe Biden once referred to as thugs. When Trump does, he's of course a racist. So a small minority of protesters / rioters will destroy the property values for the overwhelming majority of hardworking, law-abiding, tax-abstaining black people who are now at risk because of this. It is simply absurd. The facts do not warrant these wide protests. And regarding the police reforms, one more thing. I live in LA. And in LA from 1992 to 2002, we had back-to-back black police chiefs, including one during the O.J. Simpson case. His name was Willie Williams. He did a full study during the trial to find out whether anybody had done anything wrong with the evidence. And he came out with a report and said, nobody did anything wrong. It didn't matter. And regarding the LAPD, you can't get a more diverse police force. What does the left always say? We want a police force that looks like the community. Well, you got one. Around half of the cops here in LA are Hispanic, around 30% are white, a little under 10% are black, the rest are Asian Pacific Islander, and we still have protests on the grounds of, wait for it, institutional racism. Come on. 2015, Freddie Gray died in Baltimore. Look at the lineup. The mayor, black. The number 1 and number 2 department heads in the police department, black. City council, 100% Democrat, majority black. The state attorney who brought the charges against the 6 officers, black. 3 of the 6 officers, black. The judge before whom 2 of the cases were tried, black. The U.S. attorney at the time, black. The president of the United States at the time, black. And we're still talking about institutional racism? Remember what comedian Wanda Sykes said shortly after Obama got elected? How are you going to complain about the man when you are the man? So can we stop complaining about the man when all too often we are the man? Many of these cities are run by Democrats, some run by blacks. All of them are the ones appointing the police department chiefs, and we're still talking about institutional racism? Let's knock it off, and let's realize we live in the greatest country in earth. Let's pick up our cards, and let's deal them to the best of our ability. I'm Larry Elder. Peace out.
Yeah. So what I get from what he's basically saying is that we also have to take a look in the mirror and take responsibility somewhat of our accountability. Lil Wayne also just came out, and it was posted on the Shade Room, where he talked about we have to blame ourselves for the situation that we're in. Now, I'm assuming that he was referring to black people, but me, myself personally, that goes with everybody. When I got sober, before I got sober, I couldn't understand why bad stuff always happened to me. I, in my mind, thought I was a victim, like people were out to get me. But what I came to realize after I started to get sober, that I had to take responsibility for the things that I was doing. So the reason the police were hassling me was because I was committing crimes. Like, there was once a time when me and a buddy of mine, Lawrence, I picked him up and we drove to my house for a barbecue. Now, Lawrence is black, I was white. The cop was watching him across the street at the corner store that I picked him up from, and when he got in my car, the cop followed me out and followed me around the block, and I pulled out the back of the convenience store, and I had to take a right, went to the stop sign, took a right, and then when I took a right, I pulled in front of my house, and the cop pulled me over and told me that I had ran 3 stop signs, and he asked me if I had been smoking that day, and I told him no, because I hadn't been, and he told me that he could smell weed on my clothes, which was a lie because I hadn't been smoking and there wasn't anything in the car. Like, I literally was going to pick up my friend to bring him to the cookout because I was selling drugs at the time and I was doing it outside of my house or from my house, and I didn't want the people that were dropping him off to know where I lived. So the cop pulls me over. He gives me some bull crap argument about how I ran stop signs. I ran 3 stop signs, and if I let him search my car, that he'll not give me tickets. And I told him, I'm not letting you search the car. It's not my car. He said, but you're in it. But I said, yes, but legally it's not mine, so I don't know what's in this car. I'm not able to give you permission of someone else's property. So long story short, he pulled us out, put us in handcuffs, put us on the side of the road, right in front of my house. My whole family was having a cookout at my uncle's because my uncle had a house that had an apartment a full apartment in the basement. So my whole family got to see me handcuffed, but it wasn't a big deal because my family knew that I was always up to no good. We sat on the side of the road for 3 hours while they searched the car. He pulled a drug dog up and had the drug dog. They went way out of earshot, and he talked to the drug dog, and that drug dog hit on the car. There was absolutely no drugs in that car. That car was 100% clean. They searched it for over an hour, could not find anything, and they let us go. Now, at the time, Lawrence thought it was because he was black, and I also thought it was because he was black and that he was watching him. But what I think it was, in hindsight, is that he was at the corner store staying out in front of it, and there was another guy that he saw that he gave daps to, and then I pulled in, and I was already under investigation. My friend's aunt had wore a wire on me, so there was a secret indictment that was coming for me, and I just didn't know it. And they ended up, like, the whole time that we were in the car, Lawrence was talking crazy to them and talking trash and calling them racist and all that stuff. And in the time, I thought that was the case. But then that was probably in the middle of the summer, like July. It might have been like July or something like that. Well, in October of that same year, my door got kicked in by drug task force looking for drugs, and there was an arrest warrant for aggravated trafficking for me. So in the moment, me and Lawrence both agreed that it was because he was black and I was white, and we were in a car together. So obviously he was either selling me drugs or we were up to no good. But the fact of the matter is, we had short insight on what was actually going on. It wasn't until I got the document of my arrest that I understood that I was already under police investigation, and like, he might not have been messed with had I not picked him up. It was me that they followed. It was my car that they searched. So with that being said, I really thought that they were just messing with me, but when I got sober, I came to the realization that the reason I went through that with that cop was because I had did a illegal drug sale. I sold illegal drugs to a woman while she had a wire, and I was in a car that had a camera in it, and they recorded me doing it. So they already had the evidence on me, and they were still doing an investigation on me while my secret indictment was going through the court system. So at first, I thought it was just these cops are being jerks, but it was me. Like, I was the problem. When I got sober, I had to start seeing like the me being robbed, or my door being kicked in, or people trying to rob me, or people trying to short me, or like people trying to get fronts. All these things were things that I had put myself into these situations, and the way that they went down, it wasn't the person trying to rob me. It wasn't the person that was arresting me. It was the things that I was doing that brought this reaction. And I can only speak for myself, but I've been sober for 5 years, and I've had a parole officer for 5 years. And at the end of the day, I don't have any trouble with the police. I don't have any. I don't get pulled over. Like, when you run my tags, I have multiple felonies. I have multiple drug offenses. Like, I don't get pulled over. I don't speed. And I think what it comes down to is, it really comes down to, if you breed negativity, the negativity is definitely attracted to you. It is. Like, I can't tell you how many times I was pulled over and searched, leaving on the re-up. Like, I can't tell you how many times I had interactions with the police. I can tell you, there was this one time that I was working for Iowa State Company, and I had cocaine on me and I had weed on me, and I went to the projects to drop off a guy that worked with me. And when I dropped him off, I pulled out, and there was a cop sitting there. That cop followed me out of the projects and pulled me over. He pulled me over because my company had not, the truck that they were having me drive had expired tags in it. So at the time, I blamed them. Like, I blamed them for me getting pulled over. Like, they got a ticket, I didn't get the ticket because it was a company vehicle. But because I dropped someone off in the projects in Talmadge, like, they wanted to search my car. So me knowing that I had drugs on me. I let them search the car, but I threw the weed that I had in the passenger door, and I tucked the coke in my pants. As soon as that cop found that weed, he stopped searching me, and I got a weed possession. They didn't find the felony drug on me. And at the time, I blamed my company for not having those tags. But now in retrospect, I shouldn't have been dropping someone off in the projects at 12:30 in the morning with drugs on me. Had I not had drugs on me, I wouldn't have had a problem. Had I not gone to the projects to drop someone off at 12:30, I wouldn't have got pulled over. Like, those are all actions that I chose to do. I chose to have drugs, and I chose to be out at 12:30 at night. I had worked for days in that truck during the day, driving from city to city. When I sold meat, I would drive 40, 50, 2-3 hours in the morning to a town to sell meat, and then I would drive 40, 50 to an hour, 2 or 3 hours back to do checkout. Like, a lot of the times we want to blame other people for our own actions, but it isn't until we decide to change our mindset and change our lives that we start to see the reaction of our actions. We start to see how what we do goes into the future, into the things that are happening to us and the things that we do. Listen, in 2014, I got convicted. I got convicted of I got convicted of my aggravating trafficking charge. I didn't get convicted of aggravated trafficking because I was a drug addict. I said I'm a drug addict. They had to give me treatment in lieu. I pled down to a fifth-degree felony of possession of a narcotic. All right, that came with a license suspension. I literally got my license suspended on May 12th of 2014. I was told by the judge, because I lied to that judge and said that I had 2 full-time jobs. I did not. I had 1 full-time job. He told me I had 1 week to be able to go to work and get my paperwork in order to get privileges to be able to drive. In Kent, Ohio, I got a driving under suspension May 14th of 2014. On Friday, I got driving under suspension 2 times in the same day. So if you can do the math, on May 16th, I got 2 of them. On the 14th, I got 1 of them. And on the 1st, I got my license suspended for a drug charge. So I had 4 license suspensions from Monday to Friday. When it came to the drug charge, that was because of me. When it came to the driving under suspension, that was because of me. After I got the first driving under suspension, I decided to keep driving, and I got pulled over in Silver Meadows, which is anyone that's from Kent, Ohio, they know that Silver Meadows it's low income housing. It's a project in Kent. There's a lot of crime that goes on there. I was in there on the 16th with a bunch of dudes in my car with nothing good going on. We were plotting, scheming on something, and I got pulled over. And I got arrested and my car got impounded. Those are all actions that I did, and I looked back at it and thought that it was crap that the judge told me I could drive, and Kent was still arresting me. To this day, I still have to carry an SR-22 bond. To this day, I have to carry an SR-22 bond till next year. My license was suspended from 2014 all the way up till 2017. I didn't get my license back until 2017. And during one of those times, I had car insurance, but because my license was suspended, the DMV, so I paid a bunch of money to get my license back. After I paid them the money, the DMV then resuspended my license for another year because they said I was driving without insurance. And when I called them, they said, well, because you didn't have a license, your insurance was no longer valid. But when I called the DMV to say, if I pay this, can I get my license? They said, yeah, you pay this like $3,000 and we'll give you your license. Then they suspended it. So like, I was mad at the time because you told me if I pay this, I'll get my license back. But I paid it and didn't get it. They resuspend my license. And I was mad at them. But again, now that I'm older and that I've been sober longer, I've realized that was all my doing. And like, because of that, I'm still dealing with the cost of me being dumb. Like, my insurance is extremely high. I have no tickets on my license. I have no accidents on my license. I have a clean driving record. The only stuff that I have on my record is seriously driving under suspensions. That's it. And my license being suspended. And that stuff fell off my license. That stuff fell off my license in 2017. So I have 3 full years with a clean record, and my insurance will not go down because of the fact that I have to carry an SR22 bond until next year. Now that I have to deal with that, I've learned from my mistakes, and I don't do the same things. And as of right now, I'm paying for mistakes that I made years ago. But now when this SR22 bond is gone next year, I won't make that mistake again. So that's just my thoughts, guys. Subscribe, share this video, comment, like. Make sure if you're going to subscribe, you hit the bell button so you can get all my notifications. Tell me what you guys think. You guys can always hit me up on savageredrecovery@gmail.com. If you guys want to check out my photography, go to Instagram, savage_red_recovery, and check out my photos. You guys can see me on this journey of self-improvement through photography. And that's really what it is. I'm on a journey to improve myself, and hopefully that by me talking about my opinion and sharing my story of the things that I've gone through, that I can help make change in someone else's life. I have a friend that just got out of federal prison, and I'm going to be getting him on the channel for an interview, so that he also went to prison for 5 years for selling guns. He just did 5 years. He just got out. And now we work together in the same field at the same company. And I met him because we worked together. So I'm going to have him come on and tell you what it was like before he went to prison, because he's been in prison 2 times. I'm going to have him talk about his journey from messing his life up to rebuilding it, and what he's doing and where he's at in his head. All right, guys, tell me what you think. See you guys next time.